to expect by now. Listen, a number of things happened. I was going to be a normal amount of late. I was actually going to be on time. But then I was like, I really need coffee. So I decided to take a walk, get some coffee, because it's a beautiful day outside, and in Seattle, you just never know if it's going to be a beautiful day or not. And then I was like, okay, well, it's the xlov comeback, so I gotta go at least half cunt. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go full cunt, but I gotta go at least part cunt, right? It's important. So I went half cunt. I really didn't have the time to hello. I really didn't have the time to, like, do a full beat. I'm right now working off of eye makeup, highlighter, and sweat. But I was like, I gotta go at least part cunt. Like, I gotta look the part if I'm gonna do an xlov reaction. If I'm gonna disobey my calling as meta skizverse and be a multi-stan, for fuck's sake. And then, very excitingly, my Don't Be Allergic to Everything medication, hi friend, showed up. And I was like, well, I'd really like to not be allergic to everything anymore. So I decided to do that, but that took like, it's an injection. It took a little bit of time. Things had to happen for it. So, you know, I've had this injection before, so nothing bad should go wrong. But if I go into anaphylactic shock in the next 20 minutes, sorry. That's all I've got. Sorry. But that shouldn't happen. We should be fine. Everything should be fine. Okay, cool. That's still up. Great. Let's bring this back down. Ideally, it'll go into action enough that my throat won't be quite as destroyed by doing a reaction. What am I looking for? Oh, right. I am looking for the screen that tells me what's going on Twitch and such. I'm just gonna give people a few moments to enter the space, as my corporate coaching would tell me to say. I am looking for Twitch and YouTube. Hopefully, per usual, you know, hopefully, YouTube doesn't get mad at me and, you know, claim I'm doing bad things with copyright. I need to, like, contact them at some point and be like, how do I tell you that the stuff I'm doing is educational? Because the copyright doesn't count if it's educational content. Is my bitrate fucked again? I really need to figure out this bitrate thing. I do not know how to... I think it has to do with stream elements. I think stream elements, like, has some auto bitrate thing that goes wrong sometimes. You know, I'm glad I'm starting to stream to YouTube again, or for the first time, but it's also not the easiest thing in the world to manage. I don't want to watch myself. I want to monitor my life. Thank you very much. How's everyone today? How are people doing? It's a Saturday. Well, for some of you, it's a Sunday. I don't know who's actually joining at this moment. Hey, where is my live management screen? Why is this so hard? I complained about the same thing yesterday, and one of these days I will just remember what fucking link I gotta go to. Here we go. Not now. All right. Let's pull up some xlov. My day is okay. My day is okay. I have not woken up. Oh, is this, I assume Shu is friend who I know. Hi, Nori. Hi, pal. All right. Okay. I look kind of cunt and very sweaty, which, I mean, fair enough. Oh, I also, because I know that at some point a weapon shows up. So I did bring one of mine and my Enigma's many weapons that we own. This is a very gay household. So we own many weapons. And probably somebody is like, what does owning weapons have to do with being gay? And I think if you don't know the answer to that, I can't explain it to you. I don't have the ability to explain how or why being very gay results in weaponry. But I can assure you that it does. All right, let's do this. I actually, this is way too bright for me. No, go away. That's better. Is it better for my lighting on my video? Probably not, but it's better for my face. Maybe I just gotta... This is so bright. How do you... I don't know how people deal with lights right in their face. Too autistic for that shit. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Okay. This is still on one kid's room from yesterday. So... Okay, what are we starting with? Let's just go to the xlov page, because I know there's... Okay. There's... the Serve music video. Let's see, what are all of my videos recently that I have not done? There's the Serve music video, the Serve dance practice, and I know that there's a performance that looks insane. So where are my headphones? My headphones are not very cunt looking, I'm gonna be honest. I should have found my earbuds. I don't know where the fuck they went. But we're just gonna have this very awkward headphone moment instead. This is great. The showcase? Yeah. I'm gonna have to find that. I'm sure it's not too far to find the showcase. I've seen some clips of it, but this is so silly. Hold on, let me at least take down my hair, because that will make this worse. That my hair is up. God. Should I just take off the crown? Yes. Am I going to? Abso-fucking-lutely not. This, by the way, I want to just tell a story about this crown, because it involves being very gay, and I feel like an xlov reaction is the time to tell a story about being very gay. So my gothic enigma, my nesting partner, and I are polyamorous, and as some people know, she has been being courted by this triad. I guess they're actually just a quad now. I think they're all fully dating. Anyway, one of the members, one of her partners, very sweet lady, very, very sweet girl. I love her a lot. She's phenomenal. Like, very clearly one of her love languages is like gifts. And so the Enigma comes home one day with 2 giant crowns, and I will say the other one much cuntier. And I thought about wearing it, except that it is too cunty, and it is impossible to move around in. Like, you have to, it's very, like, you have to stay like this. It is huge. There's, like, it's all black. There's, like, dragons like 3D printed dragons on either side of it. It has like drapery that comes down, like jeweled drapery that comes down around your neck. But you have to be sitting up straight. So very bad for a reaction. But yeah, she comes home with just like these crowns. And she was like, yeah, she saw them and thought of me and decided that she should replace my happy birthday crown with a real crown. With 2 real crowns. And I was like, that's insane and I love her. So, anyway, that's where this crown comes from. That was my very gay story. Now you know. And now we can actually watch the damn thing. Here's the problem with doing the lives for the people on YouTube who are not used to my live streaming methods. The problem with doing the lives is that I can talk a lot, and sometimes I just do that. And for people who like my personality, that's great. And for people who just want to watch a reactor do a reaction, that's terrible. And I usually edit out these bits when I post things. But I'm not today, because I'm live. So, sorry, I guess. Alright. Am I ready for this? I'm not ready for this. But I also am extremely ready for this. I've been waiting for so long. So we're gonna do the same thing that I've been doing because I think it's good for me and everybody else. I am going to watch the whole thing through once without pausing. Zero pausing. Zero pause. Will this require me to keep my hands in the air? Very possibly. My keyboard is on my chair, so we're probably safe. We're gonna watch this once with no pausing, and then I am going to restart it, and per usual, I'm probably going to end up analyzing it frame by frame, because I suspect there's a lot to talk about, and also a lot to scream over. I suspect both of those things are true. All right. Oh, that hit is just always so good. Okay.
고개 숙여 보인 now 아니 뭘 다른 사이 다 알잖아 되게 Baby I've done my life And I just wanna break it 어둠 속에 저 빛나는 light Think you gotta do it And I move too fast yeah I'm the one that can serve you true 받아들여 내 손짓마저도 And they won't wake you up from head to toe 내가 태운 너의 energy and check out every corner of the sense Girl you better watch your mess The mirror look
Ah!
We can serve each other Shit that default And this stamina We got to get down We won't stop within We're gonna get down We're gonna get down When we say go again Break the floor
I'm not okay! I don't need to think about what just happened with those hands.
Shift the down, make it the wrong way We hit the spot, cut on now This time I gave him my energy and Baby, I'll choose you as you will I get a deal, no more about to blow Just wanna take, baby, I don't wanna bring it You know what I'm singing
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know anything about anything.
Miss
Whatever. I did handle that very well, thank you. I'm not gonna take that as sarcasm. I handled that extremely well. I realized we should probably watch everything one time through and then go back, because that's gonna take me a long time to go through. There was a lot that happened there, and I have an entire dissertation on gender expansiveness and like what it is to incorporate identity and all of that. But we should compartmentalize the education away from the crash out. Yeah, away from the crash out, Okay. How am I not subscribed to xlov? I must be subscribed to them on my other channel. Okay. Let's do the dance practice. I don't know what's going to be more emotionally devastating, the dance practice or the showcase, but I think it might be the dance. It might be the showcase. So maybe this will be like a bit of a break. I don't know. We're gonna try.
3, 2, 1.
Oh my god, did you see how she just like turned on there? Okay, sorry, I swear this time she just, Rue's just like, and on. Oh my god, she's such a performer. I'm kind of dissociating. I don't think I'm here anymore in reality. I don't know where I am, but it's not grounded on this plane of existence. I just need them to tone it down for like 5 seconds of this, okay? We don't need to serve every single beat. That doesn't
break it, not play it, yeah.
It's just unhinged.
I'm a touchball, baby, gotta love.
Ballet is no longer allowed in K-pop. Can we just agree that ballet is no longer allowed in K-pop? Can we just make that fact? Because I can't. Okay, well, there's an ad on Twitch, so yeah, correct. So that's a good time for me to have an existential crisis instead of this. This is a good time to compartmentalize my feelings. What are my feelings? Do I have feelings? You know what? My lipstick keeps wearing off on my drinks and mangoes, so I'm just gonna take this time to put on different lipstick. You know, sometimes we just gotta put on different. Sometimes we just gotta depersonalize and put on different lipstick. Okay? But sometimes it's like how it is. You know? And that's how it is right now. This is a very poorly done different lipstick scenario. Don't put on lipstick through a webcam, by the way. It's a really bad idea. It doesn't work. It just was something I could do in this moment. In this moment of taking a very important ad break for Twitch. And for me. Mostly for me. This is mostly for me. This is mostly for me. Oh, you know what? I have a sticker also of a gay person with a sword. They don't. It's not explicit that it's gay, but like they're very clearly gay. Look at this sticker of a gay person with a sword that I actually just have sitting on my desk. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 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 I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. There's only one more thing to watch. I can do this. I can do this. I can get through it. I can get through it confidently and capably and without I was gonna say without a crisis, but we know that's not true. We know that's not true. Okay, my community is back. Okay, we can do xlov showcase. Is it this top one? It says top one, right? Yeah. Oh, there's another one of all of the things. Should I watch this? Okay, help. Should I watch this one or should I wait to listen to the rest of the songs before I watch? I don't know if they're gonna have music videos. I don't know what's gonna have music videos. I kind of want to wait to see if there are any other music videos. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. And we'll go to this, and then we'll go back to the music video. Oh my god, that's real loud. It was real loud. Apologies. It's super loud. We'll do this, and then we'll go back to the music video, and then I'm ready for this. I'm ready for what's about to happen. I'm totally capable of doing this. Yeah. Real loud. Sorry. That was too loud. I wish my screen were brighter. Okay. Why are these their outfits? Why is Moody wearing that outfit? I need to put my Enigma in that outfit. She'd look so good in it. Oh, right, I'm not supposed to pause. Sorry, I was having a crisis. Sure. Yeah, just... Horror sounds so good. Oh my god. Just go away, Rui. I'm firing Rui from being my bias. She's not allowed in my vision. Stop! I hate that move. Everything about this is terrible. They look so good. The nails really do something to make those cunty hands even cuntier. I thought about applying nails, but I need to be able to type. Anti-cutouts. I don't think clothes should have cutouts. Actually. How did she do that in those pants, is my question. Did we need to give Rui that much contour? Because I can't... Her cheekbones are already incredible, and now we're just making them sharper? Why? For what purpose? For what need? For what requirement? Okay. Okay. I am not going to just watch every performance now. I want to. To be clear, I want to click on this music course show. And I will, at some point. That is not right now. Because right now, I'm going to do my normal reactor job and having normal time taking this apart screen by screen, as I normally do. My normal hobbies. I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. everything is fine in my existence. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna put this somewhere else. So that I'm gonna emotionally. All right. You know, while I'm setting myself up, both physically and mentally, to like be an academic. Oh my gosh, I just had the best idea. Sorry, this had nothing to do with what I was going to say. I should run a game of thirsty sword lesbians based on this music video. This is a great idea. I'm adding this. So I have like loose plans after GovBall to put together a list of people interested in doing like actual play tabletop role-playing games based on it was originally just based on Stray Kids, but I'm adding I'm gonna add a Thirsty Sword Lesbians xlov option to this. And doing like a series of like mini arcs with different systems, because just doing D&D is boring. And also D&D is not necessarily the best system. This is a whole different tangent. Anyway, I should run a Thirsty Sword Lesbians game based on this music video. Best idea I've ever had. Wow. Oh right, what I was going to say is I was going to advertise. We have a Discord server, which I should make sure that the YouTube link is updated for, because I think it's an old link. But it's definitely right on Twitch. Actually, I should make sure the Twitch one is updated too. It might be wrong on Twitch. I should make sure those links are updated. But we do have a Discord server. Maybe I should just make it a public server and let it be findable. Regardless, that you can join. And if you... The YouTube lives and such get a little bit iffy about things. You can subscribe to me on Twitch and see old videos for like 2 weeks or something. And I'm gonna start probably locking the YouTube lives for the 2 weeks and then reopening them. I don't know. I need to figure that out. Regardless, I'm supposed to be advertising to somehow make money. If you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, please do so, because I am completely unmonetized there, because I don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. That would be great, actually. Tell random people you know to subscribe to me so that I can be monetized on YouTube. That's clearly the way to do it. Okay, let's go through this one screen at a time. So we start with this girl. All right. So this girl is really interesting. When I saw the trailer, I was kind of curious what part Girly was going to play in it. And what seems to be clear to me now is that she is, what I'm going to guess is that, or what I'm interpreting at least, oh my gosh, stop being on the wrong screen, is that she is a representation of like girlhood, right? Of sort of the inner femme, I'm gonna say. And so we start off, and this is the thing with xlov. I was talking to the Enigma the other day about xlov, and we've both been really busy, so she hasn't seen any of this either. I very much look forward to watching it with her and watching her lose her shit about it. But we were talking a little bit about xlov and the sort of like way that they portray their metaphors and the way that they build their storyline, because they do have this really well done storyline, between their music and their videos. And the thing with xlov, we were actually comparing them to Stray Kids in some ways, because we sort of said that they're like almost the inverse, in that Stray Kids, like, even within the music videos that have their lore, the stories are a little bit more like isolated, and like kind of chaotic and complex in what they mean. And in xlov, like, you've got these very connected storylines that are within the music videos that are very obvious in their meaning if you know anything about queer people. If you know anything about queer people, the stories are like very interconnected, very well done. You know what's going on, though. And if you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's going on, right? Like, if you don't know anything about queer people, you're going to be a little lost about the story, because the story's just, it's not going to be relatable. It's not going to make sense to you. Whereas, like, xlov music, you gotta, like, dig into, it's like this very complex interweave between the music videos and the lyrics and the music itself, that requires, like, digging into the lyrics, rewatching the music video, listening to the music, going back to the lyrics, listening to the music itself, finding the interweave of the music. Like, there's this very complex artistry there, that, like, the whole thing is very, very layered. It's extremely layered, once you want to do any actual digging into the music and lyrics, right? So here, right, and it's all very, like, there is an isolated story, but all of these things are also very sequential. So it's going to be hard to sort of take apart this music video from a narrative perspective without going back to all the past ones, and I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that at this moment. But we can tell here that this is a symbolism of girlhood. And once we take that, once we understand that, the storyline of the music video becomes, like, pretty blatant. Because all of the artistry sort of revolves around what, like, it is to go through girlhood, as people who are not perceived that way. You know, something that I think is really important for understanding, especially trans femmes, because it is a very different experience to be, you know, trans masc and trans femme. One of the but, like, this is true of most people who identify as trans, is that there's a lot of discussion about how the idea of being socialized female or socialized male, this is extremely problematic, especially for trans women. Because saying that a trans woman was, like, socialized male is, it's like a big turf dog whistle. So you gotta be real careful about that terminology, and it is also untrue. Because trans folks generally have always been trans, or at least since, like, their gender sort of became affirmed in some way. There's also a lot of gender fluid people, or there's honestly a lot more gender fluid people than like we fully realize, because the gender binary is so strong. But you know, gender gender tends to solidify for people usually between the ages of 5 and 7. Obviously, some things can change, and like I said, there are gender fluid people, but a lot of what happens is that people better understand their own perception of gender, and they'll, you know, look back on their history and recognize that they better understand their own perception of gender now. But, you know, they'll still have had that gender or some experience of that gender since they were between the ages of 5 and 7. So while somebody may be treated as a certain gender, they might be treated masculine, they might be treated feminine, they aren't socialized as men or socialized as women, right? They're still socialized, frankly, as trans people, right? Even if they and others are not aware of that fact. So, you know, being trans femme or trans masc, being trans is always a different experience than being cis. It's not that you have a cis experience until you realize that you're trans. You've always had a trans experience. So we're seeing here this idea of girlhood that has always existed, right? That has always been a part of this whole. We're only seeing it now in this music video kind of for the first time, and there's probably some things to that about learning to understand what your experience of womanhood throughout your life has been and what kind of difficulties that's come along with it. We are on second 10, but I think that was a lot of good groundwork. And then we get to this chess game. Now, something that's really notable here is that they are all in these boys' school uniforms that are, you know, feminized in some way. That's important. I think it's pretty obvious, the you know, metaphor that we're getting at the second we get at it. But it is notable that, yeah, they're in boys' school outfits. I also am sort of curious. This shot reminds me a lot of, and this might be totally irrelevant, but this shot reminds me a lot of Boys Over Flowers, Hanakimi, whichever version of it you're watching. I grew up on Hanakimi, which is the Japanese version. Boys Over Flowers is very, very popular internationally and has versions internationally in all kinds of places. So I grew up on, I was obsessed with Hanakimi when I was a teenager. This shot looks a lot like the ways that the F4 are positioned in Hanakimi. Not Hanakimi. I'm totally sorry. I was also obsessed with Hanakimi. The Japanese Boys Over Flowers is called fuck. I'll remember it at some point. But the Japanese Boys Over Flowers is what I'm trying to get at. So I you know, the Hanayori Dango, that was it. Hanayori Dango. Sorry, my brain was just like very obsessed with figuring out what it was actually called. Hanayori Dango. Hanakimi is something totally else. Totally different. But, you know, the F4 in Hanayori Dango were very much this like haughty, pretentious, wealthy untouchable group of boys with a lot of secrets, right? And there's a lot of other like anime webtoons, etc., with sort of similar settings of, you know, the group of very wealthy boys with lots of secrets. And usually a girl who very often has some sort of tomboy aspect to her, or is like very forceful, or, you know, may even be masquerading as a man, right? Like Oron, right? Oron sort of has that type of similarity. And like I said, I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it does make me think of those types of webtoons, of the like the wealthy group of main characters who are so entangled in their own secrets that like nobody else even really exists to them. And that's a very common trope, and it looks a lot like this. So that's just an interpretation I'm making. I think obviously this chess is notable. And I think, you know, there's probably something to each individual piece that they're pulling at that I would need to think about more. Actually, does this have any closed captions? I assume not, because usually it just automatically gives me them. Okay, yeah, we've Cantonese to English. I don't think that's correct, actually. I doubt the English is any good. Is that auto-generated? Okay, so we've got this castle motif. Ooh, should we talk about the inner world? Ooh, that's a fun one. Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about inner landscapes, because I think that probably I think that that's probably a little bit of what's being gotten at here, is the inner landscape. So, in therapy terms, inner landscapes are a mental model that sort of talks about our inner world. There's a lot of different words for this. It's all a metaphor. It's all a mental model. So, you know, let's not take any of this too literally, right? There are some people best know them actually as mind palaces, and I think that that's, if I recall correctly, there was like many years ago, and I don't know, maybe BBC Sherlock had something with mind palaces too. That's very possible. But the concept of mind palaces came into vogue, whatever, like 10, 15 years ago. So some people, okay, yeah, Sherlock also. Yeah, there was, Sherlock, like, did it right around the same time that, like, I think a couple years after the dude who won some things for something talked about it, like a trivia thing, I don't know. Regardless, mind palaces came into vogue around the, Super Hulock era. Sorry, I just was having flashbacks. And that has similarities to the inner world, or the inner landscape. Not everybody has an inner landscape, but they tend to be helpful. And I actually, like, as a narrative therapist, frequently do inner landscape work with people, because it helps them. I also, like, do a lot of work with systems. So people who are DID or OSDD, dissociative identity disorder, or other specified dissociative disorder, right? So who are what we call systems. That's people who have alters, right? More affirming way to refer to it. For people who don't have alters, we refer to ourselves as singlets. And as I always say about DID, which I don't think I've talked about a lot on my reaction series. I did talk about it a lot in my railway analysis. That's now like a year and a half old. Part of me is like, I should rewatch that and see if it's like still any decent. And the other part of me is like, it's 2.5 hours long. I talk about dissociative disorders a lot in that reaction. So if you have more curiosity about that specifically, that would be the place to look for that. But with systems, creating an inner world can be very, very helpful because it can help them understand, you know, where each alter lives, how each alter functions. It can help them understand if they have alters who they haven't like met yet, who, you know, if they have certain parts, certain alters or core self that tends to front. Some systems engage with the idea of a core self, some systems don't, right? Who tends to front, who hasn't like met all of their alters or doesn't know who all of their alters are. Having a inner world can help us identify, like, okay, is there space that like is for an alter? Like, are there rooms in this world that like you get the sense belong to somebody, right? Or are they just waiting for somebody? It can help with sort of identifying some of those things. It can help with identifying how alters perceive the world, how they perceive themselves, right? Like if there's an alter who is either more difficult or less understood, or like a really important alter in the system but doesn't usually front, and there's very little like collaboration with that alter, we can be like, okay, what does that alter's like room look like? Where in the landscape is that alter's room? So, oh right, I didn't finish my original sentence, but I will now. As I always say about DID, dissociative disorders, like DID, like OSDD, are extreme versions of things we all experience. We all experience an amount of dissociation, and there is healthy dissociation. There is, healthy dissociation, there's adaptive dissociation, there is distressing dissociation, or unhelpful dissociation. So there's a number of forms of dissociation. And we all have some amount of it. So there are certain types of therapies, such as like internal family systems, that do a lot of work building up the inner world. EMDR does a little bit of it too. It doesn't do nearly as much, but for anybody who's done EMDR, I think that's probably a little bit more common than people who have done like a lot of IFS. For anyone who's done EMDR, the safety container, so in EMDR, there's this process in order to help compartmentalize the trauma so that it doesn't like leak out of session as much during your week, because EMDR is very, very intense and very difficult. That you build something called a safety container, wherein you do as much detailing of building something in which you can pack and unpack mentally, like as explicitly as possible, these difficult experiences. Sometimes it is like a literal box. And when I work with people who have like aphantasia, I'm somebody who, I mention this all the time, I don't have full aphantasia, but I have very close aphantasia. We might use a picture of a container. We also might use a literal container. That can work sometimes, but you build some people have like a container that they create, but I've also worked with people who create like rooms. I've I can't tell this one like super as explicitly as I'd like, because it was one person. So it's like a little bit too much information to go in as in depth as I wish I could, because it was really beautiful. But I've worked with artists a couple of times on safety containers, and sometimes they come up with really, really interesting and incredible visualization ways to have like a room in a built house, or to have, a piece of artwork itself or something like that they can sort of store things in a really lovely way. Where was I going with all of this? I was going somewhere with all of this. Right, inner landscapes. So the reason I bring that up is they have this castle, right? I interpret this castle as an inner landscape, essentially. Castles are not uncommon ones for people, especially people who have a lot of like walls against the outside. Castles, houses, buildings are not super uncommon for people to create as their inner landscape. I've seen a number of other things as well. I've seen a few people who have like Tree of Life or Tree of Life-esque things. I've had some people who have like something that's very transient, like vehicles or things like that. So, all of those things kind of says something about their version of themselves as well. And why it is that's what they're creating. But we have this castle that this like inner sense of girlhood stumbles upon and like enters as she's in this incredible distress, right? And I suspect that this castle, and I don't really remember the rest of the music video because I totally dissociated through most of it in my crash out, is some type of version of our inner world here. And let's see if I continue to agree with that interpretation as the music video goes on. The jazz is so interesting with this too, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I'm smart enough right now to interpret why I think the jazz is really interesting with this. I need to think about it. Okay, so the English auto-generated translations simply do nothing. Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah, so okay, they're all in this castle. Yeah, and I actually I'm going to continue to agree with myself here, because like we're literally we have this really fancy gaudy heart. I need to think about the red and the blue. Like the blood, the warm and the cold, the floody and the pale. That's interesting. Yeah, and we have this a very like feminine representation who is like has the control of this heart, but this is a much more mature femininity than the terrified girlhood that's you know making its way into this palace.
Baby, I've done my light, and I just wanna break it. 어둠 속에 좁힌 너는 I think you gotta do it, and I move too fast, yeah.
So yeah, and when again we have all these oh no, we haven't gotten to the eyes yet. But the eyes that will come up, you know, so Haru, we've got this focus on their face. When we first see Wamuti with the heart here, this is Muti, right? Yeah. Every now and then I get Muti and Rui confused because I have kind of aphantasia, and the amount of jewelry and makeup that they wear makes it kind of confusing for me sometimes. We, you know, is this close up of the chest, right? So we have sort of our emotional sense. Haru's going to give us like what it is to be seen, probably, which makes the fact that Haru is the first one to walk in on this girl very interesting. Right? If Haru is the representation of being seen. At some point in making her way through this castle, she has gone through this transformation as well. Unless this is meant to represent a different girl, a different person, which I don't think it is. There's a lot more makeup. There's a lot more heavy-handedness. There's a lot more not performance, but aesthetic put into her here. And I need to think about that. Oh, that is a moment. Hold on. Let's look at that. The wrapping her arms, and she almost looks mummified a little bit here. So this like strangulation of herself that she's doing to herself. My keyboard is about to totally fall off this goddamn table. That she's sort of doing to herself. We don't know necessarily where the rest of the clothing that sort of represents this that like entanglement comes from, but you know, she's both doing this thing that's almost like a hug, but also almost like you know, it could really be going in any direction of is she trying to enclose herself? Is she trying to almost strangle herself? Or is she trying to protect herself? Is she trying to hug herself? Is she trying to comfort herself? And it could be either or both. She is not less terrified for whatever transformation she has gone through. Right? And it's not necessarily a beautiful transformation, right? That's why I'm saying, like, it's an aesthetic change. It's not, there is a transformation, but it's difficult to qualify what type of transformation it is, right? And we've got now this, right, these internal parts in this very empty room dancing around her. We've got these, like, almost mockingly, these people in these boys' outfits, right? But these feminized boys' outfits. They're like, are they helping her? Or are they taunting her? It's very unclear, right? She's sort of in awe, but she's also still terrified. We also have this other version of them that's sort of doing things. They're doing so little so far that I haven't quite figured out what I think about them. They're this is a lot more sort of gender ambiguous in their styling. Is it the same chess table or is it a different chess table? Maybe also, I just need to hold on. I just need to have an emotional moment about how fucking, look at her. Do you see her? Do you see her? What am I supposed to do with this, Rui? She's so fucking beautiful. Mother being mother. She sort of lords over this game of chess, right? Like, she's clearly not playing it. She's too cool to play the game. And again, I really should be rewatching I'm a Bee to better understand this. But I haven't. Right, so somebody finally sort of, like, taps her and lifts her up. And pulls her off the floor. And now this, I can't analyze this because it's too much. It's too beautiful. I can't do it. They're on the chessboard. Okay, so these are the chess pieces. Or if they're not the chess pieces, they're at least, like, parts that are involved in the game somehow. Yeah, and you can tell that they're all related, right? The makeup has similarities in it. Like, even though they're in some ways styled very differently. Oh, there's an ad going on Twitch right now, which is probably good because frankly, I need to sit down. I need to sit down. Okay. Oh god. I don't know what just happened, but everything collapsed. Okay. Oh god. My thighs. I'm getting used to being on my feet all day again. I'm trying so hard so that I can do it for GovBall, but it's not easy. Especially since I only just got my Don't Be Allergic to Everything medication, and that has a lot of impact on my ability to exercise. But hey, I'm already feeling like I can breathe better again. I have not been sleeping well because I have not been breathing when I sleep. Because I haven't had my don't be allergic to everything medication. Yeah, so like my sleep has been fucked. Oh god, I so look forward to not being horribly congested as I sleep. That's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good for me. Do I need to do a sleep study? Yes. Have I figured that out yet? No. Do I just need to call them while they're open? Yes. Did I try doing that and for some reason they weren't open at 3 p.m. on a Thursday and now I don't know when they're open? Also, yes. God, I'm eepy. I'm so eepy. And my thighs hurt because I've been practicing wearing these boots. And they're good boots, but I really need to find my insoles. I don't know where they went. They're somewhere. I don't think I've worn them since we moved to this house, so like they might still be packed somewhere. I don't know. Okay, ad break ends in 20 seconds. Okay, ad break is over. My community is back and I am sitting. Okay. God. This also, though, remember when I crashed out about Goddess Rui in the teaser? This does sort of explain Goddess Rui. I think that this is a representation of the, like, divine feminine, which I usually hate the term divine feminine, because the concept of the divine feminine is very often weaponized against trans people. Like, it very often exists in this very binary idea of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and also, like, it's one of those things that, like, in different actual spiritual practices, there are ideas of divine feminine and divine masculine that make more sense, but, like, now a lot of white people who are completely pulled away from those original, like, spiritual practices talk about the divine feminine and the divine masculine in reference to, like, music festivals. Right? I've heard people talk about divine feminine and divine masculine energy of different music festivals, like, multiple times. So a lot of there's also, like, some inherent problematicism in our concepts of divine feminine and divine masculine. Again, from that, like, binary versus non-binary versus gender expansive sort of way. But when we see trans femmes invoking a divine feminine, it's usually coming from a very different place than when we see cis people invoking a divine feminine or a divine masculine. I don't see... I have not been in the circles that tend to have trans masc people invoking a divine masculine, but I'm sure they exist. I just have not been... I even though I have more trans masc people, at least in my life on the internet, because K-pop fandoms have a lot of trans masc folks, and not many trans femmes, because K-pop fandoms are incredibly dangerous to trans femme people. Most fandoms are trans femme folks do not tend to put themselves out in spaces like fandom as groups and like join those groups as often because it's very unsafe. And you can actually tell, you can read xlov comments and tell how many trans femmes are into xlov. So why don't we see as many trans femmes openly engaging on the internet with K-pop discourse? Because why would they do that? I know a number of trans femme folks who like are really into xlov and really don't talk about it as much on the internet, or like they'll read think pieces from other trans femme folks, but like there's, you know, the community is like insulated in certain pockets. I have a lot of frustrations with our perception of trans folks in K-pop fandoms because we so often talk about how many trans and gender expansive people there are within certain K-pop groups, and this is, you know, I'm mostly in Stray Kids world, and I see a little bit of stuff in like 18 but really we have a lot of trans masc and, you know, either gender fluid or masc leaning non-binary folks, you know, like me, right? Like I'm agender. I don't usually identify as trans because I don't really feel like I've had as much of a experience of being trans, because my experience of gender is so like I don't really give a fuck. Like I have to deal with certain annoyances with microaggressions and clothing and whatever, things like that, but overall, like I just but that's my own personal stuff. But we what we have is a lot of certain pockets of trans folks. We really, really lack like trans feminine voices. And it's because K-pop fandoms are really antagonistic towards trans femmes, and trans femininity. It's incredibly obvious, even people who don't think they are, like, there's a lot of misogyny in K-pop fandoms. A lot of transphobia is misogyny, including a lot of, you know, the types of discrimination that trans men experience that, like, is unique to trans masculinity. A lot of that is still misogyny. Just like misandry for cis people is still misogyny, misandry for trans masks is often still misogyny. And very often still trans misogyny somehow. It's pretty horrific when you actually see or know anything about it, how derided trans femininity is in K-pop spaces, and how much people will try to reduce it, right? People will try to reduce, you know, idols being outright about, like, engaging with femininity and wanting to engage with femininity and just call it being masculine in a different way. And that's misogyny, and that's trans misogyny. It's look at the way that especially boy group stans talk about masculinity, and you will see a lot of why trans femmes are not going to want to risk engaging with K-pop fandoms, right? It's so much less safe for trans feminine folks to do that than it is for trans masks. Which does not mean it's safe for trans masks, to be clear, but there's a reason they're more visible, right? However, like, so even though in my online sphere, I have a lot of trans masculine folks, in my real life sphere, I have a lot more trans feminine folks who I know, which is why I feel at all comfortable talking about any of these things, is because I have spoken with multiple trans femmes about these things multiple times, to make sure I have appropriate insight for many reasons. So this kind of like divine feminine that's being represented here, when we see it from trans femme folks, it is different than when we see cis folks talking about a trans feminine or a divine feminine. Because a lot more of it is going to be about the spirituality of the self and what it is spiritually, because spirituality is more than religion, right? Spirituality is a how, whether you consider it literal or metaphor, of your personhood, of your soul, right, engages with yourself and the world around you. So I have a lot of very spiritual clients whose spirituality is very based in the natural world. That's quite common. I myself, like, have an amount of metaphysical spirituality, but it's very based in, like, the overwhelming inability to understand or know the universe. That's why I don't engage with my spirituality very often. It kind of gives me an existential crisis. But, like, I feel a deep sense of spirituality when I'm, like, looking at the sky from a plane, right? There is also spirituality in yourself and understanding yourself, right? So we're seeing this kind of representation of a divine feminine, and I do think that's what it is, whether, you know, in that terminology or not, but this, like, essentially goddess who exists in this inner world and is inviting you, right? She's looking straight at you. She is inviting you to worship her. And if we're looking at this as an inner world, it means the expansive feminine inside of the sort of movie video narrator, as it were, that is inviting you, is inviting the person, the narrator, to, or the viewer, to understand in this deep, intense, almost religious way the feminine that exists in themselves, right? It's not just the confused girlhood, right? Because obviously that's a character and that's a part and that's an important part, but it's also it's not just the mature maternal figure who's going to take care of that girlhood. It is the expansive goddess who's going to be more than you could almost ever conceive of until you try to meet her, you know? I hope that entire tangent made sense. I'm not certain that it did. I tried. I'm trying my best here. This is like dissertation. This is like gender studies dissertation level of stuff going on here. So I'm trying to, like, from a both social work, you know, instead of just a therapeutic perspective, from a, like, social work and critical analyzing of oppression and etc. standpoint, like, pull apart an incredibly complex set of factors here that, again, kind of as I said earlier, this music video, for people who understand queerness and especially being trans femme, is almost intuitive in what it's saying, But when you start to unpack that, for the people for whom it is not intuitive, it's like it's there's so much to it. So we're doing our best here. We're doing our best. I am doing my best. Okay. I really like this. Like I could look at this in a number of ways. I think the cross is interesting. Again, pulling from there's probably an entire religious angle that I don't know that I have the brain space to figure out. Oh my gosh, did I maybe? No, never mind. Sorry. I thought I saw something on my screen and that's not what happened. Never mind. I feel like here we might be looking at like this sort of like this juxtaposition of dark and light is interesting to me. I don't think we're looking at like the evil and the good feminine, but I think we might be looking at like euphoria versus or I mean, obviously there's like some lesbian coding here. Obviously. So there might be some ideas of sexuality as well, and how our understanding of our gender and our understanding of our sexuality interplays. There's also potentially this like Madonna whore complex that might be being pulled up here. I think that that's more what I'm getting at than like the dark and light or like good and evil, but this sort of Madonna whore complex of do I have the brain space to get into trans femininity and how Madonna whore complexes become sort of forced upon trans women in particular, due to the way that they are I don't know that I do. That's its own essay. It's worth thinking about is how especially the idea of the ideas of like trans femmes and how they engage with sex and sexuality is so complex societally, in generally a very frustrating way. But I think that also and I don't have as much that I can say about it, because this is more observational and like I'm thinking about it right now, but I'd want to like actually talk to some people about it. The way that WLW, women loving women, trans femmes engage with each other and view that with each other is very distinct, and like the way that they will talk to each other about understanding sex and sexuality is, I think, a lot more dynamic. And in my experience, at least from what I've been told and seen and understood, it tends to be very complex in understanding, because when this is your life experience and you're engaging with other people who have this life experience, you have to be very complex and nuanced in your understanding, because of your understanding of your gender, thus also your understanding of your sexuality. Also, a lot of trans people tend to be very expansive in how they think about their sexuality, because we're already breaking so many boundaries through being trans that there tends to be more of a willingness to be really expansive with how you think about many things involving your body, right? So there's probably a lot of interesting stuff to pull up there that I simply both don't have the brain space to think about right now, and also I don't trust myself to talk on it enough. I don't think I know enough about what I'm thinking about here to feel confident getting into it. I find the styling of these pants very interesting because it's a much more like almost a masculine cut of pants. There is still androgyny here in this Divine Feminine, which I love. Because I really do think that xlov really encapsulates the idea of gender expansiveness, right? You know, obviously we talk a lot about trans femininity. Oh, did the director post about the concept and ending? I will try to dig up that would be really interesting. This is just my like throw out the door interpretation. I've read nothing about it yet. This is my second watch through of it. So we're going by vibes here, but I will definitely take a look about the concept and ending for the director once if I can dig up a link. Yeah, so I think that xlov really encapsulates what we think about when we think about gender expansiveness over just like this binary, you know, just being trans binary, right? You know, they do go by any pronouns. They do position themselves, you know, sometimes more masculine, sometimes more feminine. Some of them seem to be more gender fluid. Some of them, you know, have certain ways that they, right? Like Rui has sort of talked about the prince versus the princess. You know, Muti has sort of been clear about like, you can go by any pronouns, but if I look really pretty that day, like you can I think she was saying you can call me Nuna, or you can call me Uni, rather. So like, but it is not, and I really like that they haven't actually taken a position on any of their genders. You know, and if any of them do, fantastic. Like, good for them for being outright about it. But by saying that they have this gender neutral, and I think that it has evolved from gender neutral. I think gender neutral was like the easy on-ramp, right? I think it's evolved from gender neutral to gender expansive. By sort of laying down that framework, by, you know, being open about going by any pronouns, which is coming out. Like, saying I go by any pronouns is coming out. Just because they haven't defined the label as what they've come out as does not mean they have not come out, right? They have. And by having these differences in styling and such, they're really exploring what it is more than just like to be trans binary or even to be trans non-binary, what it is to just like say fuck it to all of that. That's part of the reason why I really like the movement of terminology towards gender expansiveness, is because like I think a lot of trans folks, and this is the joke about like when trans folks talk to cis people, will just be like, yeah, I'm trans. These are my pronouns, period. When trans folks talk to trans people, we have like a dissertation on our gender to give out, right? So like, I say I'm agender, and that like, I think generally what I'll tell people is that like, I'll go by whatever pronouns you feel fit the vibe that day, as long as you recognize I'm not a woman. And like even that feels a little complex for most cis folks. But when I talk to trans folks, what I'll be like is like, well, I'm sort of in this kind of weird gender fluid place between agender and this kind of like non-binary femininity of like, or like mid-binary femininity, wherein sometimes I want to put on the feminine mask, or I'll put on the female outfit, and like I wish I could put on the male outfit more often, but the male outfit really doesn't fit my body. So like it just doesn't, I don't have an appropriate outfit for that presentation right now. But like sometimes I'm really into putting on the right outfit for the feminine presentation, and at that point I probably prefer like she or maybe they, but you know, mostly I'm right. Like you start to you talk to any trans person, and you're now deconstructing the entire concept of gender, in a way that you simply wouldn't with cis people who, especially cis people who haven't been around the topics and just like don't get it as much, right? And I think that like this, what xlov is doing is so interesting because it's so openly going into that area that normally trans folks only really engage with each other, right? We sort of gatekeep those conversations from cis people. But and we sort of gatekeep the conversation about like maybe gender and gender presentation are just the same thing. But like we don't say that to cis people because we don't actually want cis people who don't get it to think that gender and gender presentation are the same thing, like societally, right? This is like a philosophical, multi-layered, deep, like you already have to unpack a whole bunch of things. It's sort of the you have to understand the rules to break the rules type of thing. And xlov is just going like, let's break the rules. Let's just openly and outwardly say fuck the rules. And we are going to expand into every possibility of presentation that we can just because we can. And I think that that's what is so appealing to so many queer folks who, like, I think a lot of us wish we could engage in more interesting, nuanced conversations about gender and sexuality and intimacy and, you know, somaticism and whatever with cis people, with het people, you know, with, or rather with cis het people, het trans folks, sort of a different matter, but like, I think we wish we could do that, but it is so difficult. And het trans people are going to be a lot easier to engage in these conversations than cis, otherwise sexually queer folks, who can be really difficult to engage in these conversations with, because sometimes people think that if they're queer, they understand queerness, regardless of whether they actually understand being trans, because it is different from being bi, right? It's very, very different. So I think that that's like part of what's so appealing, is that in some ways we're bringing this conversation to audiences that we normally gatekeep this conversation from. And I think that that's a really powerful decision that they've made. I'm sorry, I only just now saw a whole bunch of comments on YouTube. I am glad, thank you for letting me know that I'm not totally off base talking about some of the trans femme experience. I do try. Thank you for giving me feedback. I appreciate it. Okay, so this is a quote from the director. The pawn finally reached the edge of the world just before being reborn into the form he desired. He encountered 4 gods. He asked the gods who represented beauty, imagination, reason, and life. Okay. So I was right with parts of self. I was wrong with what those parts were. Okay. Who am I, the one to fade away, and who am I, the one to be reborn? Okay. Thank you both. Much appreciated. Okay, this is helpful. So, beauty, imagination, reason, and life. The pawn, the gods. Beauty is Rui. Imagine. Okay, that's sort of what I figured. Reason is Hyun. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. And then life is Wimuti, which explains the sort of more maternal form they put her in. And that could also explain some of the styling. I mean, obviously, some of the styling is like artistic, right? It's artistic direction. And having the black and white to mimic the chessboard. Why did they choose who to put what in? I think there is an extent to which we see, like, as people, and again, this is extrapolating. This is my interpretation. The concepts of beauty and reason, I think we see in a much more idyllic way than we often see, like, the concepts of imagination and life and totality. Because I think that imagination and life, while we want to see them in an idyllic way, we also actually see a lot of darkness to them. We have a lot of fear of our own imagination, and we have a lot of fear of life. We really idealize the concepts of beauty and reason. On Twitter, I also saw something Muti said about the personas, which was slightly different, but the search function is so cursed I can't find it anymore. Yes, I believe that. I will try to do some digging after this. Life and death. Yeah, so I could see the cycle of life. Perhaps that would be a more accurate interpretation. Is the that sort of totality of life, which includes death. Part of life inherently is death. So that might be why it's like a little different, but sort of the same. I really like giving the sword. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me pull out my weapon. This is one of our weapons. We have many weapons in this household. Most of them would not serve a practical purpose at this point. I think we'd have to sharpen them. I don't think most of our blades are sharpened. So this is one of our blades. Is this one? That's so blunt. It's so blunt. This could not do anything. This would be more effective to use the blunt side to knock someone out with. But we have a lot of sharp objects in our house. One of which I made. I made a knife. I blacksmithed a knife at one point. It's very exciting. Oh, there's an ad happening right now. Great, so I can keep talking about sharp things. Haru, your younger self. Oh yeah, imagination is associated with a child self. Yeah, which I think is deeply unfortunate. I've talked about this a lot in my 2 kids' room reactions. I think especially who was it? Was it Hyunlix that I talked a whole bunch about? Oh, it was both Hyunlix and Sunglix. where I talked a lot about the importance of play, no matter what your age is. That like imagination is actually incredibly expansive, conceptually, and that like we shove the concept of imagination into a box that is very unfortunate to shove it into, to associate with the child self, because while children are simply less able to force to turn off the imagination because they don't have their prefrontal cortex yet. But it's so important for everybody. I spend so much of my time as a therapist basically reteaching people to be imaginative in ways that are not simply anxiety inducing. We are, as adults, encouraged to use our imagination for terrible things. Like, as adults, we're really encouraged to use our imagination to imagine like how something could go wrong. We're encouraged to use our imagination to imagine like why majoring in art is a bad idea, right? And we often call that logic. We will often say like, well, it's irrational, it's illogical to do XYZ, and really what we're saying is your imagination should be restrained to the normative. Imagination that is not restrained to the normative is unreasonable. But it's not any more or less unreasonable, and it's important. Okay, that ad is over. I love giving Reason the sword. I love giving Reason the sword. I think that a lot of people associate, actually, like, either they would be tempted to give Life and Death the sword, or they would want to give Imagination the sword in some ways, because I think people perceive imagination as similar to emotionality, and I think they perceive emotionality as being the most, like, offensive, like, within our concepts of, like, attack, right? The most offense-oriented parts of us. But here, actually, we're seeing, like, reason is the thing that is probably going to be the thing most likely to cut down probably both ourselves and others. Kind of as I was just saying, like, we kind of use reason as an excuse to, like, cut ourselves down, right? And I think that, like, that part of us can be very antagonistic to ourselves as well as antagonistic to others, but we can rehone it to be a defense instead, and to be a protector, right, rather than this, like, manager. I also like styling. I mean, the sort of having this still feminine, like, styling that still is so representative of a knight, or like of a like this almost looks like armor, right? The way that it glows, like it almost looks like a breast, like it almost looks like a fantasy RPG breastplate, right? And it just sort of makes you think of like a very specific brand of lesbian, right? At the same time. And I really, really like that, and I really want to run a Thirsty Sword Lesbians campaign. I just really want to do that now. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a fantastic system, by the way. And she's still fleeing, right? It's really overwhelming. You're in the presence of four gods. That's very overwhelming for just a person trying to be a person, right? And trying to look at the concept of you know, all of these things and incorporate them into your life and understand what they mean for you. That's terrifying. It's a terrifying thing to do, you know? Yeah, so here we have like our life and death character in this very maternal role of protector. This is also the character who originally lifted up our main character here, right? This is the first time we see that character at rest. They put the... Is that more of the train that they put the candles on top of? Or is that just a different piece of fabric? That train is incredible. Regardless. It's an incredible... I would just like you to know, Anna Smith, that my YouTube determined that saying Umuti is mama was a different language and automatically translated it to what is your mother? Which is very funny. Rebirthing the pawn, that's an interesting one. I brought this up in the trailer. This is so interesting. Like this move, I think is really, and again, like looking at the concept of beauty, I brought up in the trailer, how sexual this move is, and not sensual. Like this is a very sexualized move, and I think that's on purpose, right? We have beauty here. Like this is like, let's look at this whole move sequence. Like, it's a beautiful sequence, and also, like, I think that the sexuality of it and the sensuality of it is intentional. Especially, again, like, the way that I think trans feminine people are so... like, really have to unpack their concepts of their body and relationship to sex and what sex means within their body. Transmasculine people do too, but I think that it's really, really especially true for trans feminine folks, especially with the societal implications of it. And this is such a joyful incorporation of, like, very sexual posing, right? This is very suggestive posing that I do think is on purpose, especially with knowing that this is a representation of beauty. And it's so joyful, right? And it's so gorgeously done. And it's like, and obviously, because it's not going to be, it's not in the way that you often will see in media not made by trans femmes, wherein like trans femme sexuality is fetishized, right? It's just in like joyful interpretation of highly suggestive posing created in this beautiful dance sequence. Dance and sexuality, of course, being highly linked. You know, there's the somatic relationship between dance and sexuality, and you know, regardless of gender and identity, etc., is, you know, very intertwined and very related. And it is just so focused on and so beautiful, and I just, there's something about it that I really love, and I don't think I have the words to like really express. I did crash out about the full choreo earlier in this video. I did not unpack the full choreo because I instead was having a crisis through every single moment of it. Yeah. I repressed it. And now I'm remembering it. Oh, it's so beautiful. So now she has this sword back. I guess reason gave her the sword. Because I don't think she had a sword at the beginning. It's a little too heavy for her. She doesn't quite know how to wield it yet. And we've got the eyes, the imagination, I guess the visualization. But I think, you know, I'm actually going to go back to what I said before, because imagination and perception are very similar. I think that people who are highly perceptive, people who have the ability to really see somebody else or really see themselves, tend to have a closer connection with their imagination. Because it's difficult to empathize with yourself or others without a really active imagination, right? You can understand people, but actually perceiving who they are is difficult if you're not flexible in that thinking. Okay, so we have two options. There's the line Hyun sings when the sword is first shown first. I don't change your mind, I only shift the time. Ooh. Yeah, that sort of idea of like, we can't force people to change, but we can adjust their environment or situation by being part of that environment or situation to give them more information that can allow them to decide to change. So now she has the sword, and the sword, okay, yeah, is giving her that ability to find more clarity. Yeah, so what I was thinking, sort of when I was saying she doesn't quite know how to use it yet, is that when we first begin using our skills of incorporating logic and reason into our cognitive understandings of the world. So let's go into therapy mind for a moment. One of my favorite modalities is cognitive processing therapy. I think I've talked about CPT a couple times before, but not enough times for me to, and not with xlov, just with Link to Prometheus. Oh, Madonna and Child. Yep, that's some interesting stuff. But CPT is one of my favorite modalities. It's one of the most evidence-based modalities for PTSD specifically. It is the only modality that the military fully approves use of for PTSD in veterans. And that is because the military is very, very, very rigid about the amount of evidence they require in order to implement, officially a therapeutic modality. They have very exacting standards. I was a little bit iffy about CPT when I first started learning it because it's based on cognitive behavioral therapy, and I have some hit and miss. I have a complex relationship with cognitive behavioral therapy. But I love CPT. And the whole process of CPT is that you find kind of the distressing or unhelpful core belief. So, really common one is good things happen to good people. That's one of the most common ones that people come up against. And then what happens is that over the course of time, whether it's a singular event or many events, right? Let's say there's a singular event. So this would be for PTSD. I've used CPT quite a bit for complex PTSD, but it does need to be adapted for complex PTSD. But, you go through a traumatic experience, you have this belief of the world that says good things happen to good people. You go through something traumatic. Now, either you adapt the belief, right? So we would call it adaptive belief, and this is one that does not usually require treatment. The belief adapts to be in line with reality, to be, I guess good things and bad things can happen to anybody, right? Or the belief might change. It might change in several different ways. I won't get into all the terminology, but the belief might change to, or rather the belief sort of might change or it might double down on itself, right? The belief might change to something like bad things happen to good people, right? So maybe it overcompensates. It goes, okay, that belief clearly is wrong, so we have to update the belief, but the belief updates to a different, also distressing belief. Bad things happen to good people. Or you find rationale to fit the world into your belief. Good things happen to good people. I have to keep believing that. So now I have to find a way to reinterpret reality to maintain that belief. Good things happen to good people. Something bad happened to me. I must be a bad person. Yes, I'm aware there's at least a couple people who are feeling very personally attacked right now. I apologize. So what we do in CPT is we take whatever this distressing belief is. Our goal is to move it into an adaptive belief that is in line with, something that's as close to, there is no such thing as an objective reality, but something that's as close to a nuanced understanding of reality as possible. We're trying to move towards more realistic beliefs. What I find with complex PTSD is that it takes a little bit more than this. So, in the belief that, only bad things happen to good people, we also would have to tear apart, the belief that there are good and bad people, right? That belief needs updating. That's not necessarily in line with a consistent reality, So what we do is we take the belief and we basically start arguing with it. We engage in Socratic dialogue. And the therapist's goal is to basically model what the client will learn to do for themselves. So this actually involves the therapist kind of becoming, I will often, if I start CPT with clients, I'll be like, here's the deal. You're used to me being not super pushy, but I'm going to have to be kind of a bitch. I'm gonna you're probably gonna get pissed off at me a few times. Because this modality really, first of all, unlike EMDR is very client-led, whatever you want to talk about. CPT is very no, we're talking about your trauma. We're talking about your trauma. You're avoiding your trauma. We're talking about your trauma right now. Nope. Come back. We're talking about your trauma right now. Come back. Come here. Right. So, there's a lot of reasons why. And there's also like it's sort of an interrogation. Socratic questioning often does not feel good when it's questioning a core belief. So we use these like very reality oriented questions of like, okay, so what's the evidence? Okay, you're telling me this is the case. Like, give me proof. Is that really proof? I don't see how that's proof. You have to explain how that's proof. That doesn't make sense to me as proof, right? So these are important skills. And each one of these things are skills. Each step of this process is a skill. Each question that you ask yourself is a skill. When we are first giving these tools to people, like giving a sword to people, they don't know how to wield it. Right? I will occasionally like send CPT worksheets to people because like they'll want to try to do it themselves. And I will say like, here's the deal. You're going to have a really hard time doing this yourself. You're going to have a really hard time doing it yourself because it's very difficult to do this without outside perspective to poke at your logical flaws. But like, you can certainly try. It takes a lot of work to learn how to use this sword properly. So that was a very long explanation of kind of, what I was feeling and feeling when I was seeing her struggle with the sword that reason gave her, is that, she's prepared to do the work and to, like cut through the underbrush or whatever, but like she's gonna take a while figuring out how to use this item, right? Okay, those doors can also parallel I'm a Bee, and oh yeah, it's been so long since I watched I'm a Bee. I really have to rewatch I'm a Bee to like fully understand this. But yeah, we've got two choices, which is really I think it's really interesting to see two doors when we're looking at something that's so much about gender expansiveness. Were these both? Sorry, yeah, these are both. Yeah, and then as y'all said, let me just reread exactly. Reach the end of the world just before being reborn into the form he desired. And I think it's interesting that sort of what y'all are saying, maybe the doors represent staying the same or being reborn into the new. We don't actually know if they made a choice in I'm a Bee. I think, they look back, he looks back, they look back, she looks back. They don't want to make a choice. I truly wonder if these doors represent the binary, right? I really wonder if they represent like the idea of a singular standard, right? And that's why they look at them at first and they're like, you're asking me to make a choice, and they try to use the sword to understand this choice, and the sword does not do very much for them. They're thinking about these goddesses, these gods they saw, and they try to use reason to figure out like what, like the tool, the clarity that they were given to figure out like what option do they choose? And they look behind them to search out something else. That's going to be my guess. I wonder if that interpretation will change either rewatching the other videos or once their next music video comes out. Because it's very possible that it will. Well, that was really good. How's my brain doing? How's my brain doing? Oh my god, it's already 6? How? How? Am I gonna do No Way? I don't think I have the brain space to break down the choreo, especially because I don't think that I'm the one skilled enough to break down the choreo. I think I definitely want to actually, you know what, let me find the Serve lyrics. I do want to look at those because they didn't give me them on the video. Oh my gosh, this is a mess. I hate this. I'm so tired of how bad the internet is now. Okay, where is my English? I don't want romanized. Do I not? I've got to have an English translation somewhere. It's got to have happened by now. Here we go. Oh, the lyrics are in the video description too? Okay. Well, now I'm here. Patting my head right now. I need more than a sigh. We both know it, take it. Maybe I've done my lying and I just want to break it. Those shining eyes in the darkness. Too late and I move too fast. I want to conserve you truth. Accept even my hand gestures and then we wake you up from head to toe. There are so many innuendos in their lyrics. It's truly incredible. Like so many innuendos and double entendres. I don't need to break the floor, just like we serve face. I don't care. A flower blooming at my fingertips. I know you want it even in your dreams. Wow. At the town, make it a runway. At the spot, walking out. Yeah, obviously, so we see where some of the metaphors from the video come from. I devour you. I need stamina. Where we stop being like this. Yeah, okay, here's the I don't change your mind, I only shift the time. I go crazy, I work that body like runway, hit the town, spill the tea, serve it hot. Take a breath. There's also, of course, the I think there's almost a sense of like how you build up confidence in yourself, even when the world tries to tear you down. Like, it's not just a fuck you to haters. It's not as simple as a fuck you to haters. It's the way that they have haters. It's not the same way that like Skiz has haters. Like Skiz's diss tracks are much more fuck you haters. We're going to be into ourselves anyway. And that's because the way that Skiz experiences haters tends to be far more about like their musical aesthetic than it is about them as people. There's some of them as people, and there's a little bit of that as well, right? But usually when Skiz has this sort of like both combination fuck you and confidence thing, it's a little bit more about talking about like the industry itself and like the experience of living under how oppressive the industry is. But xlov's feels special because so many of their haters are not necessarily about their music. It's about who they are. It's about what they represent. It's about their fundamental selves. And so the lyrics that are about like dismissing the opinions of others, they just hit in a very different way. Again, especially if you have the types of experience of living under systemic marginalization, like not just systemic oppression, but systemic oppression related to a marginalized identity. These types of lyrics feel different. They act different. They work in a different way because it is that much more difficult to work up your confidence to decide that, well, and not just your confidence, but your bravery, right? Deciding to say, like, fuck the haters is not just a matter of self-confidence. It's a matter of bravery. It's a matter of danger very often, right? God damn it. Bracelet tugged on my shirt. So I do think that, like, these sort of lyrics do just, I don't know, they feel different to me. I feel like the last comeback was more about xlov themselves feeling the hatred working through it, whereas I God is more about we will be a beacon, sword, shield for others like us, we will protect you. I get that sense too. I think you're right. I think it does, or at least Serve feels that way. I haven't looked at the lyrics for the other ones yet. I will be interested to do that when I do that. Which I think I'm gonna wait a little bit because I don't know if they're gonna come out with other music videos, or not. But yeah, like, you know, I think about that symbolism of like life and death sort of rebirthing, recreating, protecting, looking over the individual, right, in the music video, and like how does that apply to xlov trying to like sort of ascending to this place where they have enough power and voice to be a source of inspiration and a source of protection for people who haven't been able to who aren't in that position of power and protection, you know. There are currently 2 hidden videos in the iGod playlist on the xlov account. Okay. We'll see We'll see what's out when I get back from GovBall. Because unless things drop between now and Wednesday, I'm not reacting to anything else until 2 weeks from now. Nori. There are what? There's such drag queen energy to all of this too. Yeah, no, this is yeah. As I said, xlov, you gotta like read the lyrics and then watch a video and then read the lyrics to every other song and then watch every other video and then reread the lyrics and then read the lyrics in a different language using a different translation method and then watch the videos again and then you'll get their like actual intention somewhere along that path. I don't think these ones are quite as in depth as all of them necessarily, but again, like I said, there's so many like double entendres and innuendos that like I don't know that I can get into all of them. They have a mirror in the CD pack. Shit, I've been meaning to look at like which CDs we want to get because we're gonna get at least one per person in this household. But I haven't actually like looked at I was going to pre-order them, but I got distracted like living life. So, failed to, which does tend to be the way that I'm not a big merch person in general. There's a mirror in the CD pack. Why am I getting 2 K-pop albums within the course of 12 months that have mirrors in the pack? Come on now. I stan a very specific type of group, and the group is the type who wants you to look yourself in the damn mirror, apparently. Okay, I'm mentally wiped, I think. So, YouTube did not copy strike this, which is great. They don't tend to do that as much for fucking music videos. So this will be up for a little bit. I'm gonna hide it on YouTube probably for a couple of weeks until it's no longer on Twitch, because Twitch only keeps things around for a couple weeks. And then right, I'm supposed to tell you to join my Discord, which I will make sure is updated appropriately in the description of the video and in the Twitch links. Starting to advertise myself becomes when I don't know how to use words. And I guess subscribe to me places. Are there what is it? Like, comment, share. The subscribe and follow is way more helpful. I guess they're all useful. B pretends to advertise herself and fails once again. The ongoing saga. I actually usually just don't even try. Oh, there's more conversation. Oh, it might be a special pack that has the mirror. No, all of them do. It's on a card and has a message encouraging the person to love themselves. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for engaging in chat so much. It was really lovely. I really enjoyed hearing from both of you. That was very helpful and very delightful, and you're both delights. Okay. I'm gonna go let my I always call it my ADHD medication, which is a joke that some people understand. So I'm not ADHD. I take a medication to keep me awake, because I probably have MCAS or POTS or EDS or all three of them, or I don't know, UCAS or something. So I take this medication that keeps me awake that we joke gives me ADHD. My gothic enigma is very ADHD, and she really likes tormenting me about how ADHD this medication makes me. um, because I'll be like, why can I not switch? Why is it physically painful for me to decide to get up and start doing this? Stop doing this. And she's like, because right now you have ADHD. And I'm like, I can't do this. It's part of the reason I'm always late to these streams now, is because I'm on this medication that gives me ADHD. I don't fucking know. Regardless. Anyway. Oh my god, go the fuck to bed. Go the fuck to bed. Everybody go hydrate. Go the fuck to bed. I will be streaming next Friday per usual. However, I will be streaming the promenade in the park at Govball in New York. So it's going to be a very chaotic stream of me running around and talking to 400 other stay. If you want to go to promenade in the park, you don't have to RSVP, but it is helpful to RSVP so that we have an understanding of about how many people are going to be there. Please also bring a trash in out bag for your trash. This is just a whole different, nobody watching this cares about promenade in the park. Why am I going on about this? It's just what I'm thinking about, since I guess I'm technically a host. And then I probably won't be doing anything else streaming wise. I will probably also do some streaming during Govball next Saturday. But that's obviously all very Stray Kids, hectic, chaotic streaming. And then I will be back the following week, assuming that I'm not, like, ill and or dead from trying to do a music festival when I am deeply disabled. Well, if you're in New York City, and for some reason want to hang out with a bunch of stay, we'll be doing a big thing in Central Park on Friday from, I think it's technically from 4 to 7, but a bunch of us will be getting there early, a bunch of us will be staying late, you know, whatever. So, but that's a bunch of stay, mostly from threads.com. Yeah, okay, go to bed, hydrate, exist. I'll talk to y'all next week.